And we're back with another episode of I Heard You When You Said, because we did hear you when you said what you thought you said, but we heard more than what you said, and we kept it in our back pocket.
Oh, 100% accurate.
100%. So if you're thinking about becoming friends or clients with Stacey and I, then just know that up front, right? We're 13 episodes in or whatever this is now. And, it is what it is at this point. But as always, we're just two goofy people who decided to speak into a microphone and record it for the internet, not doctors, and we don't play them on said internet. So you cannot, will not, shall not, could not, would not, in a tree, in a boat, on a rope, something like that, Dr. Seuss, use anything we say against us or take it as medical advice without consulting your physician. All right. And we're back.
And we're back. So glad to see you, my friend. So glad to see you.
Did I just rock that intro or what?
You rocked that. And I do not like green eggs and ham. Okay? I do not like them, Sam. I am. That was amazing. I think you might have missed your calling as a freestyle rapper. I think that intro equates to, there might seriously be some rap skills in there that you could freestyle well.
Well, I've got some friends from high school that would probably agree with that statement because, we used to do a little bit of freestyling back in the day.
Do I ever get to meet these friends? I so want to meet these friends. Grade
day. I don't know. Like those people that you went to high school with that I wouldn't say you like hung around, but I went to a very small high school. So like you're just around those people. So you ended up kind of running or hanging out with them at random times during random school events. So they weren't really, I wouldn't really necessarily call them my friends. Like I went over to their house. So you're likely never going to meet them. But it was people who I was like, you know what, I'm bored and you're rapping, so I'm going to see if I can rap. It was kind of that thing.
Here's what I think as you just said this. Currently on the periphery, there's no way for me to meet them. But as our notoriety grows, because we're just like small town famous right now. But when we're infamous, like big stage, and they're like, oh my gosh, that Justin Carroll guy, I used to freestyle rap with him in the 6th or 7th grade. I want to come see him speak. And they're going to walk up and be like, Stacey, he can. And then they'll ask you to, and you will. That's how I totally see that playing out right now.
That's definitely a possibility. In the world of infinite possibilities, that is definitely a possibility. So I'm not gonna take that one off the board. Sure.
Thank you for that.
Today, well, before we get there, what's new and exciting in your world? Any updates? Any good stuff that you have for myself and the audience at large?
Such good stuff. Are we going to talk about what I'm doing this week? How we leveled up my training and all of that? Is that where we're taking this? We're giving people an update?
Mario leveled up?
Oh, if there is a bigger than a Mario level up, we done did it.
We done did it, son.
We done did it, son. I decided that having one amazing coach wasn't enough. For those of you who don't know that Justin is still my coach in perpetuity, because when you sign legal documents, I love that he thinks he ever has an out. He doesn't. That in navigating this weight loss resistance, we're like, I wanted to change up my training a little bit and push this envelope. And force sounds such like strong word, but really force my body to do what we want it to do. Now, I will say this because we started this podcast with a disclaimer. Just because I am doesn't mean you should unless you're one of our clients and we told you to. So what I say next was heavily strategic and curated by Justin and our friend Eric, who is writing all of my programming. So what is new and noteworthy is we stepped in this new protocol of 3 maintenance days, 3 keto days, 1 day of fasting, and with programming that is designed to force my body to use fat as fuel. And 1 week in, not only do I feel like an athlete, I feel like a beast who is also mostly tired, who is also very sore, but who is super excited because the numbers we pulled, and I don't just mean weight because that's the least important number that I looked at, but when we were taking my glucose and ketones and all that for this week, that as of week 1, it's a success. We have pushed my body to do what it's supposed to do, and today we enter week 2. I'm going to train later today, and I'm kind of I don't even say kind of because that's such soft language. I'm looking forward to going to kick my own ass this afternoon and really getting to see what I'm made of. There was a couple days last week, and I've never trained to the point where you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, where you just have nothing left, and your body is just done, and it completely comes down to mindset of going, I've got nothing, but the job's not done, so I'm going to keep going. That was almost every training session last week. And I don't train in a CrossFit gym. I train in a small town, Bougieville, nice older people in retirement, just working out, who just come to get some movement and breathing in. They aren't used to watching me kill myself on an echo bike every 4 minutes, jump off, do some cleans and kettlebell swings, and jump back on a bike. So it has definitely been entertaining to watch people watch me at the gym because I live in just such a, smooth, vanilla town. This isn't what people do here.
Smooth and vanilla. I like it. Yeah, definitely caveating that as Stacey earned the right to that stimulus from months, a half a year really, in recovery as it is, in supporting her body in the way that it needed to be, and understanding that came with some frustrations, right? Like along the way. And thank goodness we did, because there's no way that she would be able to support the stimulus of a new training plan, which, gonna be honest right here. If you've not trained to the point where you feel like you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, I'm gonna say it's hard to say that you've trained to your capacity. You've been sandbagging a little bit, okay? You've been sandbagging.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Unless I'm with you, you think about, who do I play with? Like, I'm mostly alone. I don't have anybody to play with on the playground. So unless I'm dying in your carry on.
I'm gonna have to make sure that silence doesn't get edited out.
Well, I was so curious, like, where do I want to take this so early in the episode? I could totally derail this conversation.
Yeah.
Right now.
10 minutes in, or 8.5 minutes in, we can just make it happen. My point there is, like Stacey said in her caveat, was yes, we do things that are abnormal, really, in the grand scheme of like macro coaches out there, because that's probably what a lot of people compare us to. And that's fine, just because there's not a whole lot of people that have seen the way that the style in which we do things. But Stacey's baseline is not somebody who walked in off the street. Stacey's baseline was fed up, was nurtured, was paying attention to a lot of other things outside of how much she eats, how much she sleeps, and how she moves her body, in order to establish a place where now we can add stressors to the system, like some fasting, like some keto, like some different styles of training. And of course, Stacey is, well, in many senses, she's a unicorn, but she is a unicorn in compliance, in the fact that most people of the world, of the internet, who are listening to this podcast are not going to be able to stick to most of the things that she's been asked to do. Granted, what she does, with the rest of her day and all that, like working and taking care of family and all that. So we have the luxury, and I know it sounds weird to say that, but we have the luxury of doing things that we don't know if they make sense yet or not. Like, that's to be determined. And so as a note on the back of that is, if you want to keep up with that, follow Stacey on social media, because she's going to be updating you along the way. And we are gathering copious amounts of notes and data along the way to present Stacey's case study one day as a presentation, as a podcast, as a YouTube video, whatever, right? We'll make something out of it, but just to show you, like, hey, it's not as simple as calories in and calories out. Yes, that does matter, but what is your body doing with those things? And that's why we coach the way that we coach.
One thing I want to add to that is that we also had a pocket of time where I don't have a lot of stress. Like it's going to sound so strange that building your business together is probably the least stressful thing we've ever done. Like, so as we changed our lives and started working for ourselves, we took more freedom and more sovereignty and responsibility, but actually decreased the amount of stress in our life because our motivating factor is each other and our families. And so it makes the workload we have, it feels light to me. Yeah. Not that our days aren't full and that our to-do list is never complete, but the work feels light. So knowing that we have a move coming up, knowing that I had this amount of time where I don't have a lot of stress in my life, I went, let's push this. And so if you're listening to this, the only reason we can push this, and Justin touched it, is because I did all the work to lay a foundation that we can run this pretty hard right now. And the data that we get, really, it changes the conversation and the game. But if you're listening to me, you're like, wait, she hasn't talked about weight loss at all. Oh, that's the byproduct. And you'll hear me talk about that on social media. That's an after effect. The thing I care about the least. You have to be if you're going to do work like this, you have to be so unattached to the outcome and so curious at the process that you're willing to take risks that other people aren't. And so the point of the story is I built an amazing team to do some really cool stuff. That was the long answer to a really cool story.
That was a long answer to new and exciting. And it is new and it is exciting. And I'm glad that you shared it.
So do you have anything new and exciting?
Do I have anything new and exciting? Yeah. I mean, new and exciting. I mean, is this week 3 of keeping Case at home 2 days a week? Is this week 3 or week 4?
We're stepping into week 3 or 4-ish.
We're stepping into week 4. Anywho, it's been several weeks now, and I'm starting to, I think, fingers crossed, get the hang of, daddy duty 2 days a week, and trying my best to basically kind of learn how to homeschool in a way. I mean, that's essentially kind of what it is trying to establish some type of learning, throughout the day, like formal learning. And then, we play a lot and go outside a lot and all that kind of stuff. So, on the whole, and there's some days where there's more screen time than I would, internally I would like to have. But there are also, other things that are attracting my attention and energy and time and resources and all that kind of stuff. So, anywho, that's really what's new and exciting as compared to probably the last time we recorded a podcast. Because it's been, we recorded the Australian podcast, and that was 2 weeks ago or something like that. And then we've been intermittent between then. So here we are. And we decided to do something a little bit different today to make it a little bit more fun and exciting and lighthearted, and so that you guys could call us idiots while you're driving around in your car listening to this podcast, or sitting at your desk watching this on YouTube. Is a little bit of a Q&A session. So Stacey, I'm going to give you the honor and privilege of asking the first question.
For those of you who don't know us, this is a really big deal. Justin usually needs to know the things beforehand. And he's like, nope, you get to ask the questions. I'm like, okay. So he doesn't know what I'm going to ask. These are not rehearsed answers. You're getting it as it comes, unfiltered. This is actually not one that we were texted or anything else. This is just me being your friend personally, wanting to know, what is the most favorite thing you learned this week? In
My
the last
favorite
week
thing.
that you got to learn, that you were just like, oh my gosh, the thing that made you so excited to learn this week.
Card tricks.
Same way.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to tell like a summary of the backstory. So younger version of me always loved magic, right? I had bought several magic kits, had gone to see magicians a lot when I was younger. And I don't really think that ever, I ever pursued that, kind of like the guitar thing when I was a teenager to, college years. So the younger version of me loved magic, and recently I've gotten really into card trick, like sleight of hand card tricks, like, pick any card and I want to pull that card out of the deck type of stuff. And so I actually, and you don't even know this, there was this guy I found on YouTube, and he was like, hey, if you put your info here, you can download my free course on like basics of card handling, because a lot of it is technique in the handling, not necessarily like being able to do a trick is a elevated version of practicing techniques of how to move cards around in your hand, essentially. I mean, like there's more to it, I'm sure, than that, but I'm saying it starts with like, can you shuffle efficiently? Can you splay out and like kind of like do a little bit of stuff that's a little bit flashy because you're trying to redirect attention, and there's a lot more psychology that goes into it. But one of the more exciting things that I've done in this past week is start on that little free course and just learning how to do like very basic things. I mean, he starts like with down to how you just hold the cards in your hand with the dominant hand, and all that kind of stuff. And so I've been kind of messing around with that a little bit on the side. So any of my card magic, card tricks type people out there, holler at me so we can co-create.
Okay, listen, you've got about a month to be able to put on a little show. Like, you got a month of practice before I'm gonna get some popcorn and have a drink, and you could just do your little card show. I'll be there, fully invested. I'll even buy a ticket. If you want to charge me and make me a little ticket and make it so official, I'm so down for this. Because the last time, I mean, we can make it super official.
You're such an idiot.
The last time I sat on your couch when we decided to build a business together. So I'm like, this time I could sit on your couch. We're just facilitating your hobby. It's fine.
Yeah.
You think I'm joking? I'm not joking.
No, I know you're not
joking. Card show.
Stacey, how many times have we ever known each other that I know that for you to be the one that's joking? Not very often, right? I can count on one hand. So there's that. So now my question, flip back around to you, is what have you learned? How did you phrase it? I've forgotten.
What's the favorite thing you've learned this week?
Your favorite thing that you've learned? Because I know you've learned more than one thing. What's the favorite thing you've learned?
Mm-hmm. I got to learn something about myself this week. I got to see a piece of me that I didn't know exist or hadn't seen it in a really long time. And I get a lot of compliments for, hey, you've got a strong mindset and you've done all of that, but it doesn't get tested a lot as much as it used to. And so when it's just you and you've got nothing left, and your body physically isn't doing what you want it to do, and you have a choice in that matter of, I got to really see what I was made of this week. And I was like, if you can do this, what else can you do? And it was just something, when I get to learn something about myself like that, it'll be something that I forever remember. Like, I think about the first time that I learned to do a Turkish get up with a paper plate. You learn something about yourself because you're like, when my coach took my heavy weights away and was like, hey, do this with a plate, you get to I got to put myself in a situation that was a new stimulus that I hadn't seen. So I got to see a new version of myself. And I was so excited to meet her and keep going like, okay, well, I can't wait to see the next version of you.
Man, so many rabbit holes we could go down with that one. Not
Go,
just
you can
about
go.
you. Well, not just about you, but just I've been thinking about this a lot lately. And I haven't read the book, and I'm really am excited to actually buy it and read it. But it's called The Comfort Crisis, and I can't think of the author off the top of my head, but is we have culturally adapted to comfort because we basically technologied and upgraded ourselves into not having to struggle a whole lot, specifically physically. Um, and that actually has inadvertently pushed the stress to the mental side of things, right? Like we don't have a very good balance of those things. So in a way, I really think you're living like what you learned is how, in my estimation, we were designed to live, which is the reason we get depressed, the reason we get anxious, and the reason we get, you know, mental disorders, if you will, right? Or things of that nature, things of the like, is that we assume that where we are at is good enough while the stresses of the world and the stimulus of the world continues to go forward, continues to progress, and it always will. And we are arrogant enough to think that we've adapted to the ultimate version of ourselves. And so we don't challenge, we don't push, we stay safe, we crave comfort. And this is not like a knock on like saying you got to be tough or you're not going to make it, or like discipline. It's more like you said about like craving the next version of yourself. I'm so excited to see who this person is on the other side of this stimulus, right? On the other side of this journey. And so it just makes me think like people tell a story as if it's like a hero story. And of course, it's interesting when you tell it that way. But in all honesty, we should all have a version of that, multiple versions of that throughout our life, to where it's like, man, I really did not want to do this. And I went and I did this thing and I met a version of myself that once I've seen it, I can't unsee it.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just the next piece of me and the next piece of me and the next piece of me. And of course, everything in everything in due time and everything in due amount, right? You can go too far down that road and basically isolate yourself into oblivion to where like you're the one of one in your mind, right? You still need a community of people and support systems. But at the end of the day, it's where are we too comfortable and missing out on the opportunity to see the awesomeness of ourselves, like the next version of ourselves.
I like how you said that. And I'm so good at pushing other people. And every way that I've had to push myself was really emotionally. There's not that many physical stimuluses that I pushed myself to a place that was breathless, because for so long I was breathless. And so we have talked about that in our coaching relationship, that I spent so much time carrying such a heavy emotional burden and navigating all that and doing it really freaking well, that I wouldn't push myself physically because I always needed something in the tank. And this was the first time in my entire life that I had reached the point that I was so comfortable having nothing left because I didn't need to keep resources for a future crisis. That I'm at the point of life where I've released outcomes. I've done everything I can to make my life as stable and successful as I can. That if there's a fire, okay, because I mean I have Isaiah, so you never know. I mean, at any moment my life could have to pivot on a dime. And I used to carry that weight with me, that this week was, you actually don't have to hold anything back. And I like literally came home from the gym and cried, because I was like, this is what we want to do for people, is that I got to pour everything out because there was no crisis on the other side that I had to hold anything in reserve from. And I was like, what's left? But I also added a stress stimulus of people who are willing to push me. Because, I mean, this isn't where you get to say a giant amen. Okay, so be gentle, gentle, gentle. That I'm a lot to move. It's hard to move me. It's hard to get me out of my way. There aren't many people, like if you're going to call me a unicorn, I'm not, going to hand it back to you because nobody else has been able to do what you've done as a coach, was to get me out of my own way. So then to bring two of you who are like, okay, not only do I love her, but let's see what happens when we push her. Like, let's test this and know that you're not going to break me. Neither one of you are going to break me. And go like, okay, is to have people in my life. They're like, she wants friction. Okay. She wants to force a hand. Let's go. Was just remarkable. I don't know. And that goes back to the comfort crisis. I've heard of the book, but not read it. It takes a lot of work to get to the place where you're willing to be uncomfortable and look at a stimulus and go, okay, whatever it is, I'll take it. But it's also what we get to do with people every single day. So who am I if I'm not leading from the front? If I'm not willing to do it, then this is just bullshit. And every other social media person presenting something delightful, curated and pretty.
All right.
Okay. That's a great question.
Agreed.
Okay. Do you have a question in mind, or do you want to hand it back to me?
No, I've got a question in mind. A little bit more of a fun one.
Okay.
What movie could you watch over and over again?
Enchanted.
Like the animated Disney movie?
It's partially animated. It's partially live with Amy Adams and Patrick Dempsey.
Right. You're right. It is partially. That's good. It's a good one. Is there a reason why?
Oh, first of all, it's a musical. I love musicals.
Okay.
And it's just like a good old-fashioned kind of love story, and it has some twists in it. And when my kids were little, I'd watch it with them all the time. And even on Mother's Day, Jonathan's like, "Hey, Mom, you want to watch Enchanted?" And I was like, I do. I want to watch Enchanted.
Is that movie that old?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I guess I'm mistaken.
I think they either made or were making an Enchanted too, but no, it's old.
Okay.
It's old.
I can dig it.
Have you ever seen it?
I think I'm thinking of the remake.
There is another one. This is the first one with Patrick Dempsey and Amy Adams, and Susan Sarandon was the witch. Eventually we'll watch it.
I'm probably thinking of the new one, but anyway, the premise I can still understand, and I can see why you would like that movie, especially you, the person who tried out for, was it Sister Act?
Sister Act 2.
Sister Act 2. People probably don't know that you tried out for Sister Act 2 and got beat out by a superstar.
I can't imagine why. Literally, do you want to know how much misplaced confidence I had as a teenager? That I literally...
Oh, as a teenager, huh? Oh, sorry. I couldn't let that one go by.
You couldn't help yourself, could you? You just, like, she set it up. I'm just going to hand it to her right now.
Couldn't not. Oh, that's good.
That I sang Mariah Carey, Vision of Love, is my audition. It was an open audition in Hollywood. Okay, you just don't walk in singing Mariah Carey, Vision of Love. You don't do that, okay? And I had a cold, but because I don't know how to back down from a challenge, I went and did it anyway. I can't imagine why I didn't get the part.
You know what? I imagine a future possibility.
Okay.
In which we can run into the person in which you audition in front of. And we could say, do you remember this little 15-year-old girl from, 7 years ago?
Hey, did you like that picture I sent you of 15-year-old me?
I did. You know what's crazy is you do not look that much different than you did at 15 years old. You really, people are not going to believe it, but it is insane the way that your face literally, you could have unlocked your phone at 15 years old. Okay.
And the curls and all that.
It was all there.
All there.
For me, this one's going to be 300. Have you ever seen 300 before? That's
not on purpose. The reason I say that, it's probably a movie that my husband would love, that I sat on the couch and told him I would watch with him. But if it was stressful, that I fell asleep or like went and hid in another room.
So, do you know the story of the 300 Spartans?
No,
No.
no. Mm-mm.
Okay. So back, longer than 4 score ago, back in the Roman Empire days, Sparta produced the most powerful warriors like known to that time, like infamous warriors. And so Persia was coming to take the ruler of Persia was coming to take Sparta and pieces of Rome, and it was an empire that was rivaling, Rome. And so the Spartans sent 300 dudes because they were so hard, like so vicious, 300 dudes to cut them off at this narrow pass that they couldn't get around. They had to go through. So they sent 300 dudes to battle thousands and thousands of people. And the movie it's called The Battle at Thermopylae is the if you just like Google The Battle at Thermopylae, you could find it. But the movie is about the 300 guys. Like it's a not fictional. It's got, historical accuracy in it, but it's not like a documentary. It's a movie about the 300 guys who went to defend the pass and how they basically demoralized the Persian army because they kept throwing stuff at him and throwing stuff at him and throwing stuff at him, and they kept beating them back. And eventually they got defeated, right? And they came in and they actually, their little valiant effort there is what spurred the rest of the Roman nations to come together and defeat Persia. Anyway, there's historical context to it. The reason I like it is because it's just a badass movie, and there's like 300 dudes just like going to town on like throwing spears, shields, swords, all kinds of stuff. Have you ever seen like Gladiator before? Seen the movie Gladiator? That's pretty popular.
No.
Okay. So this movie's not going to make a whole lot of sense to you.
Okay, I know the
but
Gladiator. Like, are you entertained? Okay,
that's it. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So I know pieces of things, but I have to remember when these movies came out, I was at a stage of my life that I was living my own Spartan gladiator thing, so I missed a lot. But I am open to watching it if it's not going to super stress me out, and I can hide under a blanket if it's really gory.
Yeah. I mean, there's some gore. They kind of did up the gore a little bit because it's kind of like there's a little bit of CGI and a little bit of like real life, so it's kind of like a mix of stuff. But I think it's one of them that put Gerard Butler. I think that's the main actor. Is that his name?
Yeah.
I think he's like King Leonidas, so like the main character of Sparta. I think that's one of like roles that put him on the map a little bit more in terms of like movies because he had to get like super ripped for it. Like every single one of the dudes is just like ripped to the hilt because they're Spartans, right? Of course. And so, and there's like some good humor in it that they talk, like talking shit to each other and stuff like that. Like even the women in it are like the women of Sparta were known to be like the most badass women in all of Rome because like they were like, we birth actual men. You people birth boys, we birth actual men because of the way that we raised them. And so, yeah, it was.
I'm down for that. Okay. Add it to the to-do list. Add it to the to-do list.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Card tricks, whiskey, 300. Got it. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to have 5 days.
Then keep up with this.
5 days. So we have 5 days to fill. We can knock it out. Entertain a toddler. Card tricks in a movie. Okay. Okay. I have a question for you. This is going to be a pivot, a hard pivot.
Okay.
How do you handle criticism and how do you use it for personal growth?
I don't. No, just kidding.
I'm so glad my husband's not answering this question.
Stacey, easy, okay?
My husband wakes up from a slumber right now. He's like, give me the mic. I will so answer this question for you.
How do I handle criticism?
How does Stacey handle criticism? Oh, well, let me tell you.
We don't have enough time in the day. Okay. How do I handle criticism? Well, like most others, my initial reaction is pretty prickly. I don't take it super well at the beginning, right? Like nobody likes to hear themselves talking shit about, like somebody talking shit about you. So my initial response is usually like, ooh, that kind of stings. I don't know if that's true. I don't believe that. My next thought is usually, and this is kind of depending on who it's coming from in a lot of contexts, but let's just say it's coming from my wife, because, most of the time the things that are said about you from people that you love the most are the things that are going to dig at you the most. So, my next thought is, okay, well, why would she be saying this? In what state is she in? Was she saying this? Like, does she feel hurt? Is she tired? Is it like what's the context? And if it hurts a little bit, then there must be some aspect of it that I am finding to be the truth, right? There's some aspect of it that makes sense to me subconsciously. So that's why it probably hurts a little bit or a lot of it. And so I'm just kind of walking you through some of my logical talk. Now, again, this is not like I do this in 10 seconds. It's more of like, okay, this hurts, fuck you type of thing. And then it might go into, okay, gotcha. Why would that criticism be given? And a lot of times too, I mean, I consider myself pretty self-aware. I could probably have guessed what was going to be said before it was said. Like, hey, I know that's a weak area of mine. You can criticize me for that. That's fine. That's something that I'm either purposely not choosing to work on right now, or I am working on right now. There's whatever.
I'm going to steal that. I'm purposely not choosing to work on this right now. I'm going to keep that.
Well, is that like funny though? Like, is it funny?
Oh, no, there's so much wisdom in that. And so when you talk about how self-aware you are, we'll get to it, but that's a really good answer. Like, I'm purposefully not choosing to work on this right now because I'm looking at something else. There's a lot of wisdom in that.
Well, and I think that actually brings me to, if you have that thought, and it really is a huge friction point, right? Like, if it really is this is insurmountable at this current moment, then it's on you to go, I'm choosing not to work on that right now, and I'm choosing to work on this other piece of me. Do I have my priorities out of line? Do I need to switch those two? Do I actually need to start working on this right now because it's a bigger deal than I thought it was, and put this other thing on hold that maybe is a little bit more comfortable, I'm a little bit more excited about, or, just less hard to work on, like whatever the reason that you started to work on, thing A instead of thing B that you're getting called out on. So you're right. There probably is some wisdom in that, but you got to think about all 360 degrees of perspective there. So if you're the one criticizing me, like let's say in this example scenario, I'm trying to think, okay, not only what's the context in which she's saying this, but what is it that I'm doing that is the rub here, doing or not doing, right? That is the rub here that needs to be, kind of tinkered with to make sure that things can come down to, calm waters again. And it might not even be something that I'm doing, or not doing, but something that is getting misinterpreted, or, a lot of times it comes down to communication issues, right? But the first thing, or the ultimate thing I'm going to do is come back and go, okay, what am I? I'm going to try to be as much owner as I can after I get done with the whole feeling sorry for myself thing, that goes like, what is it that I could be doing better, or could be doing less of, could be doing more of, whatever it is. And then, the self-improvement of the personal growth part is going to come from just whatever is post analysis, like after that, those questions are answered. And that might not be answered right now in this day, in this moment. It may be we need to sit down and talk about this type of thing, or I need to go think about this type of thing. And the growth comes in whatever happens afterward, right? Like, hey, Stacey, I'm sorry that I wasn't, taking notes like you wanted me to take notes. And my idea is to do it like this. What does that sound like to you? And so start to collaborate to come up with an answer that we both that makes sense for both of us. And that is where actually the personal growth comes from, because it's the collaboration piece, not the fact that I took better notes, right? It's the fact that you go, hey, look, I understand that I somehow did you a disservice, right? And so I'm trying to figure out how to make that right again. Is that clear?
Yeah, I think it's a really, not only do I think it's an honest answer, it's a super honest answer, is it gives people a perspective. It gave me a perspective of a way to navigate, when challenges are brought my way, of, hey, you know what, I do see that about in myself right now. But that's not my focus right now. I'm working on this thing. It all comes down to relationship and communication. But I think that's a great answer. I think that if I'm going to answer the question, is that I'm probably harder on myself than anybody else. You know that to be true. You're like, you thought that? Okay. Yes, I thought that I hold myself to such a high standard that for me, it depends on who's criticizing me. If you don't have an intimate relationship with me, I don't even give you the time of day to be able to influence my move, because you don't know the 37,000 layers. And I think that was just from a long time of having to navigate really special needs. And from the outside world looking in, everybody had an opinion and could criticize my methods or how we did something, but they didn't have the backstory. So I had to be really specific of who actually do I set a table up that here's a sword, you have permission to use it. And so if you are close enough to me that you have a sword to either protect me or pierce me, I will wholeheartedly listen, because I know your intent is to make me better. So my first assumption is going to be like, what's right about this? What am I not seeing? The hard part, I think, it gets to be in the relationship with my husband. I'm like, this is what you're coming to me with? Do you not see yourself do this 892 times in a day? Okay, I hear you. Yes, I will work on that. But truth be told, the things that are still the rub points are not new. They are the same foundational character traits that I'm still grinding out and trying to soften. There isn't nothing, and I can say, being together for 27 years, that our rubs are not things we've been talking about for 27 years. My commitment runs really deep to great things and not so great things. I'm really loyal.
You've been rubbing each other the right way and the wrong way for 27 years.
True statement.
And it's just the balance of the two that makes the 27 years possible.
But I'm really aware of my flaws. There wouldn't be anything if you brought to me, Stacey, did you realize? I did, and I'm sorry. This just happened to us last week. But I got to see something in myself that I didn't like, and I'm like, oh, God, that sucked. Okay. You didn't have to say anything to me. The worst part is when I bring to you something that's a flaw. You're like, oh, I know. I saw that. And you just let me run with it. Like
you're like, you dickhead.
Like you just let me go. And you're like, well, you were too quick to stop. So I don't know what you want me to do.
There's a good lesson in that, though, and not one that haven't been I guess clear on until now. Is like you said, when, for example, with you, because I'm sure a lot of spouses, couples, whatever, can think about this too, is when my spouse comes to me with a complaint that is very obvious that they do the exact thing, right? Maybe in their own way, but they do the exact thing. Your first instinct is go, hypocrite, do you not see yourself? Right? But let's flip the roles for a second and say, what if you had brought to them? Then would you be a hypocrite to say, oh, I see you doing this thing in which I also do in my own way too, right? And so the trick there, it's not a hack, because it's a long, slow play, is just like you said, okay, I accept that feedback. I'm so glad that you gave me that feedback. I'm going to work on this. And this is how I'm going to work on this. And you go and you work on it, and you build more trust, influence, and respect with your partner. And then once you're just a little bit closer, right? And maybe it's just a little bit more the context is a little bit smoother, then you start to ease that into their mind as something that you see in them that's not exactly, instead of like jumping to it right then, you go and you work on it, and now you built that trust and you've listened to them. And so likelihood that they listen to you or trust you and you can influence their behavior is a little bit more. It doesn't always work, but again, 27 years of experience has taught you that there's better ways to do things and there's worse ways to do things, or more effective, less effective, right? And so to go, hey, let me lay this on your table, right? Not just like accuse you outright of it, like you committed a crime, but to just go, hey, as I was working on this in me and solving it for me, I noticed that there are a couple ways that you kind of do it a little bit too. Do you see that, or am I just seeing like always seeing two different things here? We're not on the same page. And so likely, right, when you bring somebody with a little bit more of a non-confrontational type of approach, then maybe you can get their opinion and be like, you know what, you might be right, right? You're not wrong is my favorite response to use, because if you don't want to tell somebody that they're right, but you know that they are, you go, no, you're not wrong.
I know. You tell me I'm not wrong a lot. Okay. What childhood memory makes you smile?
The first deer I ever killed. Yep, I can still see it fairly clearly. I mean, I know exactly where it happened and basically exactly how it happened. It was the first and only deer I've ever shot with a shotgun, which people who don't use guns probably don't know, but a shotgun is like the wider barrel, sends out like multiple pellets, and a rifle is the one that's got what they call rifling. It's got these little twisties inside the barrel, and the bullet is very slim. It's not fat like a shotgun shell, right? It's very slim, and it goes and can go a very long distance, right? This is what like assault rifles use, rifle bullets, and shotguns, what we use for like hunting birds, is very much a spread shot. So just for context, the reason I have to add that is because I was using a slug. You can use what's called a slug in a shotgun, which is one solid piece of lead. Okay, it's not multiple shots. It's one solid piece of lead. It's much less accurate than using a rifle, so you have to be within closer range, but it has a lot of knockdown, and generally a slug in a shotgun is a little bit easier for a kid to kind of just point and shoot, because it's going to leave a little bit of a bigger hole, and like it's going to do a little bit more damage in some ways. And so if they're that close for a kid to be able to like see it enough to shoot it, it's it can be a little bit more effective. So since then I've only used rifles, is my point. But so holding the shotgun, little 20 gauge youth model shotgun that we still have today. There's the thumbs up making its way back, baby. Apple approves of this message. That I shot him and dropped him right there where he was, right in his track. So he was walking like into in between these trees where I was going to get a good shot, and Dad was like right behind me. And I don't even remember how old I was, but we were sitting in a deer stand, right? And he was probably, I don't know, 30 yards away, 40 yards away. And, pulled the trigger, dropped him right there. And I just remember Dad going, "Man, you dropped him like a rock. You dropped him like a rock." Like, I specifically remember that phrasing in my head. And it was like, I can still hear my dad saying it today. And he was so jacked up. He was so excited. And I don't even think it was a big deer. It was just the first time I'd ever shot a deer. So that was one that still makes me smile.
That's actually a really good story. I like seeing your face as you tell it, because you can see like that you go back there, and like I could just see your dad like right behind you, like, and it comes back. As I saw the question, I'm like, gosh, this is a hard one for me to answer, and there were two things that came to mind. So I'm gonna, if being a teenager counts as my childhood, I'm gonna go with this. Okay. Is that Does it count, or do I need to go younger?
Can we just go like pre-mortgage? Is that, or like pre-rent? Like pre when we were paying rent? Is that a good enough of a time frame?
Sure. That we're still friends to this day, that we don't get to talk as often as alike. My friend Kathy Gibson. We would ditch Spanish all the time. And we were in AP Spanish, and Senior Thrawn was our teacher. And Senior Thrawn.
What up, Senior Thrawn? Shout out Senior Thrawn. He probably listened to this podcast right now, boy.
And Kathy and I would ditch school. Like, our parents weren't around, so we'd go back to our apartment complex and lay out and get tan, right? So we would ditch school and come back, and every time Senior Thrawn would be like, Senorita Klein, Senorita Gibson, the beachgoers. And we're like, the beachgoers? He's like, oh, yes, every time you're not here, you come back tan. And so if I was at school and Kathy wasn't, or vice versa, he'd be like, Senorita Klein, where's Senorita Gibson? Did she go to the beach without you? And we literally would go to school sometimes. And then on our way home, we'd walk home and we'd stop by this little gas station, an AM/PM, and buy butter and chocolate chips. And we'd go home. We'd make chocolate chip cookies for dinner, work out. And then, oh, yeah. Yep.
I'm listening.
So much.
The protocol's coming together.
We would make chocolate chip cookies and eat cookie dough for dinner. And she, I'm a little bit messier and she's organized. And I'm the person that when you bake, like, you make the entire mess and then you clean up afterwards. That is not her. She is the person of, if you use the flour, you measure the flour, you put the flour in the bowl, and you put the flour back in the pantry and you wipe it up along the way. So we're trying to make cookies together. I'm like, you're ruining the whole mess making experience. And she's like, you're stressing me out. And so we'd make cookies almost every day and then work out. And then the next day, do it over and over again. It was like, she's literally the best. The best.
I am curious, what do these workouts look like at 15 years old and 16 years old, or however old you were?
I can't remember. I was doing them while I was watching MTV. When MTV still had videos.
So you were doing them while you were watching. That tells me all the answers I need to know.
I think we had an exercise bike. Okay, it was like the precursor to the Echo. Okay, like, it was this metal bike with a fan that had arms. I'm confident my mom had one. I remember it being in our living room. Yeah.
Man, if I moved my Echo into our living room, I'd get so much more. I'd burn so many more calories throughout the day.
Would you? Okay. Next question. This is a good one. How do you define success in life?
This is supposed to be a lighthearted episode, Stacey.
Okay, I'll go. We just did childhood memories.
Yeah, but we had to think about that one. That one was touchy.
Hold on. I'm gonna give you a hold on. Okay. What book left a lasting impression on you? What book left a lasting impression on you?
What book left a lasting impression on me? Well, one of the ones, and I think I got right up to the end of it. I don't think it's behind me here. Got right up to the end of it because I read it on a week's vacation that me and Paige took to Mexico back in November. It's called Delivering Happiness. And it's about how the CEO of Zappos, I can't remember his name, how he built Zappos like as a company before. I think he eventually had to sell it or something like that, but or he moved himself out of the company, but or no, they sold it to Amazon, I think is what happened. Anyway, so how he built the culture of Zappos, and it's just like, it was so simple. Like, again, that's what makes me, every time I look at these like business gurus and like these these like algorithms that you have to use and indicators. And I get there's time and place for business strategy. But really, at the end of the day, if you can make people happy with the experience that they get, like they're going to spend their time, energy, and money, repaying your effort. Right. So, I mean, it's really, that's kind of the synopsis of the book to some degree, but it just was really cool about that. When you say impression on me, is it really just left an impression of he took what he knew how to do and he just did it really well until there was something that needed to be better, and he did it even better. And the point was, he didn't just do it for his customers. He made it a great place to work. Like he made it fun to work at Zappos. Like people wanted to come and work at Zappos, and like even their interview process was kind of wacky. And like, it was just, he did so many creative things before it was like cool in Silicon Valley to go and like work at Google, because we have a campus that we just all walk around and sit on bean bags and like toss stress balls back and forth to collaborate. Like whatever it is that you think that people do in Silicon Valley, like how techies live, right? They were doing the precursor to that, and actually making it work and actually making it fun and creative, back in whatever, early 2000s, whenever that was. So, yeah, that's my answer.
Okay. You could probably guess my answer.
It's not a smut book, is it?
I don't read smut. I don't read things unless I can learn something from them.
That's true. You're not much of a reader.
I'm not much of a fantasy person. We had this conversation in the bookstore. Like if I was reading a smut novel.
We did have this conversation.
Yeah, if I was reading a smut novel, I'd be reading it for like technique or strategy. I wouldn't be reading it like this is a great story. I'd be like, there's a character flaw. I can predict how this book's going to go. Great. No man would actually behave like that. And ain't no woman going to say yes to that. That's how I read smut novels.
Yet Enchanted is your favorite movie. You don't have this version of creativity, but Enchanted is your favorite movie. Okay, see the things that don't add up, Stacey Hansen. You see the things that don't add up.
You said yes. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
Okay, what's the book?
The Body Keeps the Score. The Body Keeps the Score was the book that left such an impression. I built my whole career off of it.
So to those of you who are thinking about buying that particular book, be ready to invest heavily in your concentration, because it is not a light read at all. First of all, I have it right here.
Also, you should probably hire us as your coaches before you dive into that book, because you're going to need us.
Yeah, here it is. Here's what it looks like. First of all, it is, well, the last page of the index is page 445. So it's not a short read. Like it's fairly thick. And you can see, how far I made it in there before I ultimately, pass time in a different way, shape, or form. We'll revisit.
Why would I read it? I have her.
Yeah, why would I read it? I have the embodiment of it right here. But as a caveat, it is worth your time. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that it's not worth your time. It is worth your time. Just understand it's not like your normal, it's not even a self-development book. Like normal, like I don't even know that Delivering Happiness is a self-development book so much as you have lessons to learn. They're a little bit more easy to comprehend. In The Body Keeps the Score, it's not a story so much as it is just a historical accounting of what's his name? Bessel van der Kolk. Bessel. Of his journey through psychology and learning new things. And there's huge takeaways in it, don't get me wrong. It's just you have to be in a time and space ready to understand the context of the book and to be willing to put it down and be like, wow, that was kind of something serious. And it's actually old information at this point. Like it's still relevant, but it's old in terms of the discovery. We just don't talk about it as much. So yeah, okay. Highly recommend.
With the time we have left, I have 2 more questions. And I have done a Google search while on this podcast to make this everything you want. So these questions come from Teen Vogue. Okay, you wanted lighthearted and fun. I've come to deliver
Let's rock and roll.
lighthearted and fun. So, here we go. What do you think is the most annoying quality a person can have?
Is it cheating if I say quoting song lyrics? Is that a cheating? Is that a cheating?
No, it's
No. That's not it. I like to mess with you. One of the things that would be like one of my biggest pet peeves is people who consistently cut you off, like
in a
in
car.
conversation.
Oh, in a
Conversation.
sense. Like in a car? In a
No,
sentence.
like you'd get cut off once and never see him again. But what I'm saying is like the quality of just thinking that whatever is in their head is so important that they have to disrupt your statement and continue to talk over you and cut you off is a pet peeve of mine. Now, I have listened to people who I admire do it to other people, like on a podcast, like a lot. And again, it's still not my favorite thing. I think it's more tolerable when I hear it on something rather than it being something that's happening in a conversation. But I would say that's probably one of the most annoying. That's definitely the most annoying quality of a human being that I could think of right now.
Okay. Mine is going to be hypocrisy. Like if you're going to say it, then do it. Like people who say they're going to do stuff and then don't do it. I'm not saying like, hey, I said I was going to go to the grocery store and I didn't go to the grocery store. But it's the vocal, loud, you should, and they never.
Mm-hmm.
That's my biggest. That's my biggest.
Or you shouldn't, and they do.
Yeah. Okay. I picked this one because I'm not even going to set this up. What's your Roman Empire? Something that you can't stop thinking about.
Something that I can't stop thinking about, huh? Oh man, I hope y'all are watching the YouTube version of this because Stacey is she's about to fall out of her chair. It's
I
close.
know, first of all, it's Teen Vogue, and I know that you hate when there's these kitschy, catchy, like, what's your Roman Empire? Or this is my era. Or,
Oh, that stuff is so much fun to listen to. Oh, wow. Something I can't stop thinking about. Geez, I don't even now that the context has been brought out of the question, I don't even know how to answer that question.
Yeah. Okay. We can skip it. Okay. I'm going to give you a choice between two questions. This will be the last one we got, because I don't think the question of what part of the zodiac sign do you relate to the most is going to be
I don't even have enough relevant information to answer that question. So next.
What is your guilty pleasure movie or TV show?
Guilty pleasure movie or TV show? Probably I'm gonna go with Bridesmaids.
Ooh, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a movie. That's not a TV
Yeah, it's a movie. Yeah. And I think it's just because it is kind of a chick flick, rom-com sort of scenario. It's probably not a dude favorite movie, but dude, it's so freaking funny. And Melissa McCarthy is just she's a gem of a human being in that movie. So yeah, Bridesmaids.
I have not seen it. So my guilty pleasure TV show is New Girl. When I like maybe once or twice a week, I'll be like, I'm down for an episode late at night when I just want to turn off New Girl.
I've only seen it like a handful of times, so I only know like maybe a little bit of the premise. So we'll have to revisit that one at a later date.
So yeah, this was fun.
Well, I hope that this is definitely. I'm not editing anything about this. I'm not even going to let it run its magic. I'm just going to do the raw version of this because it's the best, right? All 1 hour and 5 minutes of it now, or whatever it is, whatever it's going to be, is I think it's hilarious. The pauses and the laughs and the everything makes it super funny to me. So I think it's. I don't even think it's worth cutting out. 3 minutes worth of pauses to make it any less timely.
Well, first of all, thank you for coming up for the idea to make it lighthearted and fun, and that we just get to do this together. I just love it.
As always, if anybody wants to see us talk about anything in particular in terms of a theme of an episode, please reach out to us. Let us know. I am Farmer to Fitter on Instagram. Stacey J Hansen. That's in the show notes. You can find those. And if you want to get in contact with us, work with us, or anything like that, we will do future Q&A episodes. We just need some cues, right? So, throw them our way. We'll compile them, and over the next, whatever, so many weeks, we will gather them up, and we'll come back with some more. So, Stacey won't have to resort to what is your Roman Empire type of scenario.
Questions I didn't ask you that were on the list. When or where was your first kiss? Who or what was your unexpected crush? Those stayed off of it because Teen Vogue, that's really where it went. And I can't remember my first kiss or my unexpected crush. So I'm like, don't ask me to remember stuff that was, decades ago.
It's not even decades. I mean, I guess it maybe is, a couple of decades old for me, maybe a decade and a half, but I still don't remember. I still remember who my first kiss was. I guess people have it's like a thing for some people. Like, I definitely don't remember who my first kiss was.
I don't remember anymore, but now listen, people are going to listen to this and maybe our first kisses are listening and they're like totally crushed because they remember us and we were like the best thing ever. And they're like, they don't remember me.
No, I doubt anybody who would be considered one of my first kisses listens to this podcast. But, if they do, they're always welcome to, leave commentary. At least if you are going to, make sure that you leave a 5-star review on iTunes to make sure that, at least there's a reciprocation out of it.
Not on your kissing, but on the fact that we told the story.
If you want to make the rating based on the kiss, let's use some context. I was probably like between the ages of 12 and 15. So, whatever.
Oh my God.
Anywho,
yep.
Can't wait for the feedback on this episode.
All right, until next time.
Until next time, we'll see y'all.